Hello and welcome to Power at Sea on the Commodore 64, and as you can see this was released by Accolade in 1987, although I remember the Zap review was in early-ish 88, so it may have had a release in the US before the UK, as tends to be with these American games. And there's a fairly decent-ish title screen here. Nice destroyer. Fires the occasional burst from one of the guns, the deck guns. And as you can probably guess, this is a naval conflict game. It's actually based on the Battle of Leyte Gulf in World War II near the Philippines. It's one of the biggest naval battles of all time, and apparently it's the first battle where the Japanese used kamikaze attacks, which I'm sure nobody was expecting. So you see it was developed by Distinctive Software, the guys that did Test Drive games, I think. Right. It is a disc-only game. I think it's a disc-only game. It's certainly quite a hefty multi-load. I can't really imagine it working on cassette, although the Zap review did. I think the Zap review mentioned there was a cassette version, but I'm not convinced. And it follows the same kind of structure as Ace of Aces and Desert Fox and The Train, all Accolade games, and you know they're all about little sub-games and you've got to manage them. And this is no different. So at the start, you can pick how many resources you want. So you've only got 3 ships. The actual battle, the Allies had 300 ships, so it's a bit stripped down. But you can pick how many fighters you want. But then that changes the amount of bombers that you can carry. And same with the troops. If you carry more troops, you've got to carry less fuel. And, well, I guess you can adjust to suit your style of play or your strategy. But to be honest, I just leave these on the default, and I've already managed to complete the game, so it's certainly possible to complete them with these settings. So what I'll do is just leave it as is. We'll click Done. So there's some nice presentation screens, nothing spectacular, but they add a bit of atmosphere. So you get the brief here that you've got to secure the Leyte Gulf within 96 hours, which is historically correct. The battle did take about that length of time. So you start off on the bridge. And what you do is you take command of the admiral at the bottom, and you just look to face, whoever you want to talk to. So whoever turns around to face you, that means they want your attention. So the guy on the left here, that's the comms officer. So just telling you you've got some orders. And to his, well, the next guy over is the navigation screen. We'll come back to that. Then there's the status screen, which shows you the damage of all your ships. Well, you've only got 3 ships, but I mean it's nicely drawn, but and it shows any damage here, but there's no actual facility to repair any damage. So these screens are just really informative, but you wonder if they just got rid of them, maybe they could have cut down on the multi-load. And to the right of that is the action screen, or the weapons operation, where you go into your little sub-games from this screen. And that's it. Let's go back to the map. Now you can use the function keys F1, F3, F5 and F7 to select these. So let's just press F3. Right, so the task force is at the bottom of the screen here. And I'll just scroll up. The screen scrolls a little bit. So what we're looking for here is the flags. See, there's one green flag, there are two green flags, one purple and one red. Then they're the enemy bases that you have to capture. There's only 4 bases you've got to capture in the game, so it's not really a big game. It looks, initially it looks like quite a complex strategy action game, but there's not really a lot to it. So let's get started. Well, the green bases are the weakest, and they support the other bases. The red base being the strongest. So you want to attack a green base first. So what you do is you plot a course to just outside where the flag is. So, and you press S and pick your speed. And obviously if you go full speed, you use up your fuel a little faster. We're still getting this little beep there, so the engine started. Let's go back. You can press Shift and F7 or F8 if you prefer to speed up accelerated time, or time compression I think the manual calls it. Right, what we'll do is we'll change the speed to full, why not? And if you encounter any enemy ships or planes on the way, it will stop. Your fleet will stop, and you can go to the action screen and take appropriate action. So we've reached our waypoint. An enemy base spotted, so let's go to the actions, the weapons op screen here. Assault base, so what you've got to do is use your naval guns to weaken the defences of the base. It's pretty easy, just adjust the elevation and fire at the appropriate time. There's some nice little presentation screens, a bit like Ace of Aces. Right, so we can see at the top a view through your binos, and we're just looking for, yeah. So you see a little flash at the bottom of the mainland there, and that's a position. You just fire a little bit before, just sort of lead the target a little bit. You'll know when you get hit, it stops firing. Oh, that's not very good. And you can only turn the guns within certain limits. I missed that one completely. I mean, it's not a bad scene. I mean, this is probably the main sort of sequence in the game. It's fairly similar to, I mean, the game, when it was reviewed, it drew comparisons with Beachhead, and there's certainly some comparisons to be made. This is similar to the assault in the fortress at the end of Beachhead, so maybe not quite as tense. Not doing very well here. I'm playing with a joypad. Normally I use the keyboard, but the fans on my laptop are quite loud now. That's one of the reasons I haven't done any videos. I've been waiting to get either a new computer or a new laptop, but just haven't got around to it yet. You see the middle of the screen on the status panel, it says gun elevation. That's really all we're looking at. Apart from that, it's just up and down to adjust the elevation and fire at the appropriate moment. Right, these machine gun posts here, these are critical. You've really got to get them. Apparently they make up the bulk of the enemy's defences. So I've done pretty well here. And that's it. And at the end it will tell you the strength of the base. If it's still strong, we can't attack it with the ground forces. It's medium, so we can now use the ground forces to attack. Now you do select how many you want. If you don't select enough, then you have to repeat the last section again and try and weaken the defences a bit more, then send in more troops. But for a medium-sized base, I think the manual says 1200, but I think you can get away with less. But we'll stick with 1200. And once you assault the base, the troops have to stay there to defend it. So there's no point allocating more than you have to, because then you lose them from your total amount of troops. So there's a little section here. It would have been nice if it had been like Beachhead. Maybe you could have had another section where you assault the beach, but it's just done via this little section. Yeah, these graphics, they add a little bit of atmosphere, but they're not amazing graphics. And the in-game graphics for the action sections, they're not great either. So we've captured the base. Right, so let's go back to the map. What I do here is then try and go through here, but there's always an enemy fleet waiting for us. If you press, you can have up to 3 waypoints. You can set them here. I'm just going straight for the next weakest base. We'll go half again and accelerate time. So yeah, I mean the graphics are, in general, they're pretty so-so. There's certainly not a graphically impressive game. Right, what's happened here? Enemy aircraft approaching, so what we need to do is man the anti-aircraft guns. And then this bit is definitely a Beachhead knockoff. Yeah, so graphically it's not up to much. As you can see, the graphics in this section especially, they're probably not even as good as Beachhead. The rate of fire seems quite slow for an anti-aircraft gun. Oh, somebody's trying to flank me there. Oh. Didn't do very well there, did I? Feel like I'm playing with this damn joypad. I think that was a kamikaze. Okay, probably sustain a bit of damage there, I would think. Yep, damage to the small guns. And we're waiting on the multi-load again. Let's have a look at it. If you sustain damage on the carrier deck, that limits the amount of fighters that you can launch. And likewise, I think if you sustain damage on the cargo hold for the transport, then that affects the amount of people, troops that you can ferry or launch on a base. Yep, so I know I had this back in the day. I'm a fairly new player to it. What I'll tell you is that I played it. I had 5 games of it, and I completed it on the 5th game. So maybe I was lucky, but there's not really too much in the game. So it's not really a deep strategy game, and it's not, as an action game, I don't think it's as good as Beachhead. So it kind of somewhere in between. I don't think it's as good as the other games of this type by Accolade, like The Train, or maybe even Ace of Aces or Dam Busters. But I mean, I quite enjoy playing it. you know, the few games of it that I've had, but I'm not sure I would go back to it now that I've completed it. Right, enemy ship approaching, so let's... So this is where you get two options. You can either launch your planes, you can send up to 5 fighters and 2 bombers, I think. You can launch planes, or you can get closer and then try and use your guns against it on the ship. We'll send 1 bomber, why not? So what you need to do is try and destroy the anti-aircraft guns on the enemy ship before you send in the bomber. If you get at least 1 gun, the bomber's got a chance. If you don't get any, then the bomber will be shot down. So here we are in the cockpit of the fighter. So it's calling it a beachhead clone, it's doing it a bit of a disservice, because obviously there's these bits as well that, you know, there's nothing like this in Beachhead. Okay, I've managed to get 1 gun, that's good. You see the graphics get a bit blocky, but I mean, they do the job. The status panel is not great, it's not exactly Spitfire 40 when it comes to the quality of the panel of the aircraft, the interior. So I think I said 5 fighters, didn't I? So you can see a little flash on the gun on the deck, normally where the... Oh, shot down. Sound is alright, I mean it's fairly standard aircraft hum and some gun effects, but it adds a bit of atmosphere. So you only get 1 pass with each plane. You've got to watch your altitude as well. I saw the gun flash, but just couldn't get to it. So, I mean, the gameplay, I mean, there's some variety. None of these sections are spectacular, but they're mildly engaging. I think the problem I've got with this game is, apart from the fact there's not really much on it, but in terms of the... I'll try and drop the bomb here, so you just got to wait till your sights change colour. Oh, shot down right away. So we'll not be seeing that then. But yeah, the problem I've got with the game is in terms of the graphics polish and, you know, the standard of the graphics and sound, they just don't match what most games were coming, you know, the top games on the C64 by this time. And the gameplay is fairly similar to sort of Beachhead, and the graphics feel as if they've come from that era. Right, so what we can do now is start the engines. And then try and get a bit closer. If you ignore the enemy and try and charge through, in fact, no, we'll launch we'll launch a couple of planes and a little bomber. If you try and charge through, then your fleet will take some damage from the enemy ships' guns. I suspect there's a bit of a random element to the game. Maybe that's why I managed to fluke completing it, you know, as easily as I did, because all the other games I've had, I've not felt close to completing it. But yeah, maybe I was just lucky. shot down. But anyway, I think I've shown you enough of the gameplay. If you don't get much further, then that's, you know, I haven't shown you everything, but you get an idea. Oh, I think I've got one. Will my bomber get through this time? Probably not, knowing my luck. Oh, I was just about to drop the bomb, but never mind. The game ends when you capture all the bases, or when you don't have enough ability to capture them if you're too heavily damaged or you run out of resources. Okay, we're close enough to enemy fleet to... Oh no, we're not. We missed a chance. Yep. So we just carry on. Yeah, we've been hit by the enemy. Yep, so that's Power at Sea for you. It's mildly engaging. I wouldn't say it was an amazing game, but you know, if I'd bought this back in the day, I think I would have been happy enough with it. I think there's not really much in it, you know, and I prefer games, let's say, like The Train and Dam Busters even. But it's definitely of that category of game. So I'll give it 6 out of 10, and you know, that means it's just above average. I think that's a fair enough score. What can we do with the ships now? Well, I can't launch any planes. Well, I can, but I can't launch any bombers. I'm just trying to see if I can man the large guns. Yep, okay. So this section, again, it's a bit like Beachhead. Except this time you can press F1 to flip between controlling the ship and controlling the guns. So I want to increase speed, fuel speed. So you want to try and get the enemy ship broadside to give it the biggest area to hit. That's probably broadside anyway. I'll just go to slow. Oh, just a bit short. So again, it's trying to range you as well. Sometimes it's difficult to tell whether it's the enemy firing or whether you're actually getting a hit. Definitely hit it a few times. Yep, it's going down. So I think that's all the action sequences in the game. So there's not really anything left to show you. So yep, 6 out of 10 for Power at Sea. Not bad. Maybe if you fancy it, just I think the manual's online somewhere. You can have a quick read up on it, or just there's probably enough information in this video to give you an idea. If you're interested in a bit of naval warfare, give it a go. Right, see you in the next video.